For 5 years, she had been the center of my world, Elena. We met in college, two nervous freshmen caught in the whirlwind of new beginnings, unfamiliar cities and messy dorm rooms. She had this laugh, warm and real, that made people stop what they were doing just to smile. I was just some guy, quiet, bookish, maybe too cautious with people. But somehow, she noticed me. And somehow, I was lucky enough that she stayed. From rushed breakfasts before lectures to late-night walks under yellow streetlights, we grew together. We didn't just date. We became each other's person. She knew my family, my weaknesses, my ambitions. She became part of me in ways I hadn't even realized. And I loved her. With the kind of love you don't question, because it feels like gravity. Like something that just is. Then there was Daniel. My best friend since I was 10. We used to call ourselves brothers, climbed trees together, scraped knees together, helped each other survive childhood chaos. Daniel was the loud one, the confident one, the guy who always had an inappropriate joke ready. He wasn't perfect, but I never questioned his loyalty. We'd been through everything, heartbreaks, job losses, family deaths, and when I introduced him to Elena, it felt natural. The three of us clicked. We'd hang out, drink beers, watch old movies, share inside jokes. There was never any weirdness. At least, not at first. Fast forward to my 27th birthday. Elena insisted we rent a cottage outside the city. "Something special," she said. "You deserve something memorable." Daniel offered to help organize. He found a modern place with a wooden deck, fairy lights, and a hot tub overlooking the lake. It looked like something out of a commercial. They went all out. There was a barbecue, playlists I loved, all our closest friends. People were drinking, dancing, making toasts. It was perfect. Too perfect. Around 11 p.m., I stepped outside for some air. The laughter and music inside had gotten loud, and I wanted to watch the lake. The night was cool, the kind that tingles your skin and clears your head. I could still hear Daniel's voice booming from the kitchen, joking about something, and Elena's familiar laugh. I smiled to myself. I'm lucky, I thought. Not everyone has what I have. But the thing about perfect moments, they never last. Later that night, after most people had passed out or gone to bed, I noticed Elena wasn't in the room we were supposed to share. I figured maybe she was getting water or helping someone to the guest bedroom, but she wasn't in the kitchen, not in the living room, not in the hot tub. I started checking the rooms, and then I heard it. A soft thud, then a whisper, a low chuckle. I knew that voice. My stomach sank as I stood frozen outside the last closed door down the hall. Daniel's voice, and then hers. At first, my brain refused to process it. Number, it can't be them, not tonight, not like this. I turned the handle slowly. It wasn't locked. And in the dim light spilling from a nearby lamp, I saw everything. Clothes scattered, the silhouette of two people too close, too familiar. They didn't even notice me at first. I didn't speak. I couldn't. The look on their faces when they realized I was standing there will haunt me forever. They froze. Daniel was the first to react, instinctively pulling the blanket over himself, his eyes wide with something between fear and shame. Elena. She just stared. Her mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to say something, an excuse maybe, or a lie that would somehow dull the knife she'd just driven into me. But nothing came out, just silence. And I think that was the worst part. No one said a word. My heart was thudding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something, hit him, throw a chair, punch the wall. But I didn't. I just stood there, paralyzed by disbelief, nausea rising in my throat. I backed out of the room like it was on fire. I stumbled through the hallway, my vision blurred. I didn't know where I was going, just away. I ended up outside, in the cold night air, sitting on the wooden steps of the deck. I remember staring at the lake, but I didn't really see it. My mind kept replaying what I saw. Their bodies, her skin, his face, the look in her eyes. It didn't feel real. I felt like I'd stepped out of my own life and into someone else's nightmare. I don't know how long I sat there. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. Just sat, hollowed out. Eventually, I heard the door creak open behind me. Soft footsteps. I didn't turn. It was Elena. She sat beside me without saying anything. The silence between us was suffocating. After what felt like an eternity, she whispered, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Like this." That's what she said. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I made a mistake." Not, "I love you." Just that. I turned to her slowly, and when our eyes met, I saw no tears. Just guilt. Heavy, guilty silence. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't one night of drunken stupidity. This was something deeper, something older. "How long?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. "Elena," I repeated, my voice shaking. She exhaled, looked away. "A few months." That's when my breath caught. My best friend, my girlfriend. For months. While I was planning this party, while I was talking about our future, while I was saving up for a ring I'd hidden in my sock drawer. They were building something behind my back. I stood up, shaking with anger. "Was it ever real for you? Any of it?" She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes now. But I didn't care anymore. It was too late for tears. I walked inside and saw Daniel in the hallway, dressed now, looking like a ghost. He tried to speak, but I didn't give him the chance. I didn't need to hear his version. There's nothing a man like him can say to undo what he did. I packed a bag. I didn't say goodbye. I left my own birthday party and drove away, heartbroken, betrayed, and alone. And as the cottage disappeared in the rearview mirror, so did the last 5 years of my life. The drive back to the city was a blur. I don't remember the road, the traffic, the signs. All I remember is the weight in my chest, the pressure behind my eyes, and the silence, that endless, suffocating silence that filled my car like smoke. When I finally reached my apartment, it felt foreign, like I didn't belong there anymore. The couch where Elena and I watched movies, the kitchen where she used to dance while cooking, the photos still on the fridge, mocking me with smiles that now seemed fake. I didn't turn on the lights. I just dropped my bag and sat on the floor, back against the door, staring into the darkness. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either. I just kept thinking, trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything fell apart. Was it when she stopped texting me goodnight? When Daniel started coming over more often without a reason? When she laughed at something he said and looked away when I noticed? It's terrifying how you can miss the signs when you're busy trusting someone. The following days passed in a haze. I didn't go to work. I ignored calls. I deactivated my social media. I just disappeared. I needed time to breathe, to think, to exist without anyone else's voice in my head. But even in isolation, their betrayal echoed like a siren. One afternoon, I finally checked my phone. Dozens of unread messages, from friends, co-workers, even Daniel. I didn't open his. I couldn't. I deleted it without looking. But Elena's messages, those I read. Please talk to me. I messed up, I know. I just need you to hear me out. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I still love you. That last one made me laugh. A short, bitter laugh that hurt more than it helped. Love doesn't look like that. Love doesn't hide in bedrooms when the candles are still burning downstairs. Love doesn't wear your best friend's shirt. A week later, she showed up at my apartment. I didn't open the door. I watched her through the peephole. She looked thinner, pale, like she hadn't slept. She stood there for several minutes, knocking softly, whispering my name. Then she left something by the door and walked away. It was a letter. I let it sit for hours before picking it up. Inside was a handwritten apology, pages of it. She explained everything, how it started, how it escalated, how she didn't know how to stop it. She claimed it wasn't about love, that she was lost, confused, and scared of the routine we had fallen into, that Daniel was a mistake born out of weakness. She said she never meant to hurt me, but she did, and no amount of ink could undo that. I burned the letter in the kitchen sink. After burning the letter, something inside me finally cracked, not with rage, but with resignation, like a string snapping silently in a dark room. I wasn't angry in that cinematic, screaming way people imagine heartbreak to be. It was colder than that. Empty, like the color had drained from everything I used to know. I started throwing things out, her toothbrush, her hoodie that lived on the back of my chair, the coffee mug she always used. Each object felt like a lie, a physical manifestation of a story I believed, now tainted beyond recognition. But some things I couldn't just throw away. The framed photo of us in Lisbon, the necklace I gave her on our 2nd anniversary, the notes she used to leave in my jacket pockets. I boxed them up and shoved the box into the back of the closet, out of sight, but not out of mind. Daniel tried to call again. This time I answered. Silence on both ends at first, then his voice, tentative and small, so unlike him. I messed up, man. I didn't think it'd go that far. I swear I didn't yell, I didn't curse him out. I just listened. He rambled about guilt, about confusion, about how he hated himself for what he did. Said he was drunk, said she kissed him first, said it didn't mean anything. All the usual excuses. I asked one question. Did you think I wouldn't find out? He went quiet. Then I hung up. That night, I walked through the city like a ghost. The streets were wet with rain, glowing under streetlights. I ended up at the park where Elena and I once spent an entire summer evening just watching the stars. I sat on the same bench and stared at the same sky. But everything looked different now. Quieter, lonelier. I started journaling after that. Not because I wanted to remember, but because I needed to get the poison out. Every word was a wound being lanced, every sentence a confession I could never say out loud. Pages filled up with pain, anger, confusion, with what-ifs and whys. The hardest part wasn't that she cheated. It was that she didn't even hesitate. She chose him. In the house I rented for her, on my birthday, while I was still there, still loving her. That's what broke me the most. The ease with which they crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Everyone told me time would help, that I'd move on, meet someone new, find happiness again. But time doesn't heal betrayal. It just teaches you how to hide the scar. The following weeks blurred together in a numb haze. I went through the motions of daily life, but it all felt mechanical. I woke up, went to work, responded to emails, spoke to people when required. But inside, I was hollow, as though something essential had been scooped out of me and I hadn't even noticed until now. I stopped answering texts, ignored calls, declined invites. People noticed. Some friends tried to check in, but I couldn't stomach the idea of explaining everything. How could I begin to describe the humiliation of being betrayed so intimately, so carelessly, and so publicly? My best friend and my girlfriend, 5 years of love and history, reduced to nothing in the span of one reckless night. On my birthday, I started staying late at work, not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere else to be. The silence at home was unbearable. Every corner reminded me of her. The kitchen still smelled faintly of her perfume. Her favorite spot on the couch, the stupid mug I forgot to throw out. The echo of her laughter that would creep into my memory when I least expected it. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The party, the glances they exchanged, the moment I couldn't find either of them. The gut feeling I ignored, the laughter I forced, the sick realization later when the pieces came together, her avoidance, Daniel's sudden disappearance, the way no one looked me in the eye as I asked where she'd gone. Some nights I'd dream about them, vivid, brutal dreams, like my brain had become a director hell-bent on torturing me. I'd see them together, hear her whisper things she used to tell me. But to him, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, choking on fury I had nowhere to place. I never confronted her, not properly. We hadn't spoken since that night. No closure, no answers. Just a sudden, jarring silence between two people who once shared everything. I heard from mutual friends that she'd moved out of her apartment and was staying with her sister. Someone said she'd been crying for days, that she looked like a wreck. But I didn't care. Her tears meant nothing. They came far too late. Daniel messaged me again, a long wall of text. He said he didn't know what to say anymore, that he missed our friendship, that he regretted everything, that he was lost. I didn't reply. There was a time when I would have fought for him. When we were kids, we got into trouble together, defended each other, shared secrets no one else ever knew. He was the first person I told when I fell in love with Elena. He knew everything, all the ups and downs of our relationship. And yet he was the one who drove a knife straight through its heart. The worst part wasn't that they did it. It was that they didn't stop, that they let it happen, that no part of them thought, this will destroy him. I started therapy, quietly. No one knew. I just showed up one Thursday evening and sat across from a woman with kind eyes who asked me one question. What brings you here? I almost laughed. Where do I begin? But instead I just said, I think I lost everything and I'm not sure who I am without it. She nodded. And I broke. For the first time. Really broke. Everything I had been holding inside came spilling out. The shame, the betrayal, the grief, the sense of being blindsided, the feeling of not being enough. She didn't offer cliches, didn't try to minimize the pain. She let me bleed. Let me talk until the silence between sentences wasn't unbearable anymore. That became my new routine. Thursdays. 1 hour of unfiltered honesty. A space where I wasn't pretending. And slowly, painfully, something shifted. I wasn't better, not even close, but I had stopped sinking. One evening, I found myself scrolling through my camera roll. I hadn't looked at it in weeks. The photos stung, Smiling faces, shared memories, frozen joy. But instead of immediately closing the app, I stared at one particular picture. Me, Elena, and Daniel. From 2 years ago. We were at the beach, sunburnt, laughing, drinks in hand. We looked like people who'd never imagined hurting each other. I stared for a long time, and then I deleted it. Not in rage, not in sadness, just acceptance. That moment, that version of us, no longer existed. And clinging to it wasn't healing me. It was chaining me to ghosts. That night, for the first time since everything collapsed, I fell asleep without waking in the middle of the night. The healing hadn't started, but the haunting had begun to fade. Life has a strange way of moving forward, even when you're not ready. The world doesn't pause for heartbreak. Rent still needs paying. Dishes still pile up. Emails still flood in. And slowly, you begin to realize that healing isn't a moment. It's a process. Sometimes invisible, sometimes brutal, always slower than you want. It was mid-March when I ran into Elena. I hadn't seen her since that night. I was leaving a bookstore, clutching a paperback I probably wouldn't read, when I heard my name. I turned, and there she was, standing under the awning of a cafe, coffee in hand, looking both exactly the same and completely different. Her hair was pulled back. She wore no makeup. There were dark circles under her eyes and a stiffness in her posture, like she wasn't sure whether to run or cry. I froze. So did she. For a few seconds, we just stared. Two people who used to know each other better than anyone else, now complete strangers in every way that mattered. She spoke first. Hi. That one word hit harder than I expected. So normal, so soft, like she hadn't detonated our lives. I nodded. Hey. Silence again. I should have walked away, but something held me there. Not curiosity, not longing, maybe just closure, the raw kind you only get when you look pain in the eyes. You look, she started, then stopped herself. Are you okay? I almost laughed. It would have been cruel, but I didn't. I just said, I'm surviving. She nodded, eyes flicking down. That's fair. She seemed to shrink under the weight of the moment. There were tears there, but she held them back. I didn't want them. I didn't need her remorse. What I needed was understanding, and even that, I knew, wouldn't change the past. I'm sorry, she finally said. Not a whisper, not dramatic, just honest. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. I didn't respond. Not because I hadn't heard her, but because forgiveness, even when it's true, isn't a sentence you hand over like a gift. It's a slow unraveling, a journey that sometimes never ends. She continued, I was lost. That night I wasn't thinking, and Daniel... Don't, I said gently but firmly. She stopped. I don't want to hear his name. A nod, quick, embarrassed. More silence. Do you hate me? She asked, voice cracking. I thought about that. Really thought. Did I hate her? No, I said. But I don't know who you are anymore. That landed hard. I saw it in the way her shoulders sagged, like she'd been holding out hope that I still saw her. The her I used to love. But that version had vanished the second I felt betrayal breathing behind me at the party I'd planned with so much joy. I loved you, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I still... Elena. She stopped again. I don't want to go backward. She nodded again, slower this time. And I could tell she understood, really understood, that whatever we had, whatever remained, it was now ash. You can't rebuild from ash. You start new, or you don't start at all. We stood there a few seconds longer, Then I said, "Take care of yourself." "You too," she replied, and I walked away. No dramatics, no music swelling, just footsteps on wet pavement. The quiet ending of something that once mattered more than air. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat by the window with the book I'd bought and flipped through pages without reading them. And for the first time since my world collapsed, I felt something different. Not happiness, not peace, but lightness. Like a stone had been lifted, not entirely, but just enough to take a full breath. I knew there would still be hard days. That grief doesn't disappear. It changes shape. That sometimes I'd still wake up angry or remember a joke only she would have laughed at and feel the ache all over again. But I also knew this. I had survived the worst of it. And maybe, just maybe, I was beginning to live again. The thing no one tells you about heartbreak is that it doesn't end in one single moment, not even when you think you've moved on. It ends gradually, like a storm fading into quiet. You stop talking about them. You stop checking their social media. You stop flinching when someone says their name. And one day, without ceremony, you realize they haven't crossed your mind in weeks. That day came for me in early summer. I was out with a group of co-workers, the kind of post-shift gathering where no one talks about work, and laughter is easy. There was music, light drinks, someone telling a story that had the whole table in tears. I was laughing too. And not the kind of laughter you force to seem okay. It was real. And in the middle of it, I caught myself. She hadn't crossed my mind once that day. Not Elena, not Daniel, not the party, the betrayal, the questions that used to keep me up at night. I realized that for the first time, I wasn't living in reaction to pain. I was just living. And it felt good. Not perfect, not cinematic, just real. Like I had stepped out of the shadow of a memory that used to define me and started to write new ones without trying so hard. The apartment was still the same. Same street, same squeaky floorboard near the bathroom, same view of the alley. But it felt different now. Not empty, just mine. I rearranged the furniture, got rid of the wine glasses we used to use, bought a new bed, not out of bitterness, but because I deserved a space that wasn't haunted. I started running in the mornings, not far, just enough to feel like I was reclaiming my body, my time. I joined a photography class I'd been putting off for years. I took longer walks with no destination. I found joy in the quiet things. Clean sheets, late-night thunderstorms, the smell of coffee. Sometimes friends would ask if I was dating again. I wasn't. Not yet. Not because I didn't want to, but because, for once, I wasn't rushing. I was learning to be okay in my own company, to heal for real, not just fill a gap with someone new. Eventually, I did start talking to someone. It wasn't fireworks. No butterflies or movie scene kisses in the rain. Just comfort, curiosity, slow trust. We met over something simple, a shared book recommendation. We talked for hours. She never asked about my past, and I didn't offer it up right away. Not because I was hiding, but because I wanted to know who I was without the trauma speaking first. And when I did tell her, eventually, she listened, not with pity, but with understanding. The kind that says, I see you, and I'm still here. I don't know where it'll go. I don't need to, because that's what healing gave me. Not a guarantee, but the strength to walk into the unknown without fear. Sometimes, when I look back, I still remember that night, the voices, the betrayal, the cold. but it no longer defines me. It was a chapter. This is the rest of the book.